Hello and welcome to the regular Thursday interview with me, Anne Diamond, here on Viking.TV. Now, I think you know by now how excited everyone here at Viking is about getting cruising again. And the most amazing milestone was finally achieved last week when the Viking Venus spearheaded Operation Restart with cruises around the southern shores of the British Isles. But now things have become even more exciting with the announcement that Viking are starting cruises from Malta, which is an amazing jewel in the crown of the Mediterranean, and one which, if you haven't already discovered, you really should. Malta has great royal connections for a start. Now, you could be forgiven for not having really heard of Malta until perhaps you watched The Crown, because Malta was the gorgeous, sun-kissed island basking in the Mediterranean sunshine and marinated in some 7,000 years of astonishing and dramatic history that, of course, was the much-loved refuge for a very young and happy royal couple, the young Princess Elizabeth of England and her husband, the dashing naval officer, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. And that was in the 1950s, and it's often said it was one of their happiest times when they were just an ordinary, well, I suppose never ordinary young couple living an idyllic life. It's also thought that the Duke of Edinburgh was his happiest there too, as a young officer in charge of a ship, HMS Magpie, and as the father of then just two little children, Charles and Anne, and a wife he adored. It was always a love match. But very much, of course, he was the lead of the family then, until everything changed when her father, King George VI, died, and she suddenly became queen. Well, the couple lived in the Maltese capital for 2 years, between 1949 and 1951, while Prince Philip was stationed there. An 18th century limestone villa in the style of a summer palace, the Villa Guardamangia. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I will be corrected if I'm wrong. It was loaned to the couple by Philip's beloved uncle, of course, Lord Louis Mountbatten, who rented it from the Skemby family. It was said to hold very happy memories for the couple, who looked back on their carefree time there fondly in later life. The Queen, we are told, was a regular naval wife. She went out shopping, driving along in her Morris Minor, that's a car, by the way, and she took lots of boat trips around the archipelago, while her husband worked hard in the Navy, which was one of his great joys. And nowadays, Malta is still a magnet for holidaymakers who love more than just fantastic beaches and a wonderful climate, because it is so steeped in history. And over the centuries, it's been invaded and conquered and inhabited by countless different factions. It boasts historic sites related to a succession of rulers, including the Romans, the Moors, the Knights of St. John, French and British. It has numerous fortresses, megalithic temples, and even a subterranean complex of halls and burial chambers dating back to 4000 BC. So basically, as I was saying, Malta is an archipelago in the central Mediterranean between Sicily and the North African coast. And there it is. And look at this, because here it is being visited by Viking's newest ocean ship, the Viking Venus. Just a few weeks ago, she sailed into Valletta Harbour. This is absolutely the most beautiful scene of the Viking Venus coming into Malta. And as I said, this unique island nation is the next destination Viking is opening up to cruising again. And that's Venus coming in. And I just think that I could watch that all day. It's sumptuous, isn't it? And you can see how everything that is Valletta, that harbour there, just glows in the sunshine. Mind you, so does the ship. As I said, Viking is opening up to cruising again. And now is the perfect time, because I'm told that spring and early summer, April, May and June, really lots of people consider is the best time to visit Malta, because the weather isn't too hot, but it is lovely and sunny during the day. And so, of course, it's perfect for relaxing and water sports and exploring. Now that's the Venus that you can see coming in there, but I'm told there will be 2 Viking ships sailing Malta and the Adriatic, and Malta and the Greek islands. And we'll learn a bit more about their itinerary later, but you can see that's basically it. So if you're lucky enough to come, what would you find when you get there? What's the local food like? What's the local wine like? Why do so many Europeans describe it lovingly as a sort of open air museum with 300 days of sunshine? What are the people like? Well, who better to tell us than someone who's lived there his whole life and comes from a family who are very well known for being part of and contributing to its rich culture and heritage. So let me introduce you to the founder of the Corinthia Hotels Group, which he launched back in Malta in 1962. He's been welcoming special guests to the island for well over 50 years, and perhaps no one knows the island better than him. He's a household name there, and many people describe him as an unofficial ambassador for the country. So welcome to Alfred Pisani, joining us now from Floriana. Hello there.
Hello, nice to see you.
Oh, well, it's lovely to see you. How warm is it there at the moment?
Very warm, 22 going up to 24 degrees. Comfortable, very comfortable.
Exactly, extremely comfortable. How has it been for you over the last year? I mean, it's been difficult for everybody, but you're in the hospitality industry. Have you had any guests? Have you been able to operate at all?
Extremely difficult. We had shut down in most of the hotels where we operate come March last year, when I had to take some very, very serious decisions together with my management team, how to stretch our cash flow, because it was apparent that we may be in for a reasonable time with this pandemic. It's been tough. I've had the full support of the management team. Really, I mean, offering to hold back part of the salaries, literally, a recommendation which came from them, and we entered into an agreement that we would do our utmost for the cash flow, always with the promise that we would have to compensate once the pandemic is over. Malta at the moment is doing very well with the vaccination, and we're looking to be hopefully achieve herd immunity by the end of June. So we're all hopeful and looking to a return of business.
Because I was saying there that you've been welcoming guests for well over 50 years, really. And a hotel needs to be a vibrant place. It needs people, doesn't it? It must have felt very, very strange visiting some of your hotels and just seeing them empty and quiet.
It is actually sad. We obviously take every measure to cut down costs, because we may have just 5% occupancy and still running, with 2/3 of our complement. So the pressure is enormous. And so we limit the air conditioning, we limit the lighting. There's a number of actions we've had to take. It is sad when you go in and, you don't see the hive of buzz and activity that we're used to. Especially here in Malta, we have 5 hotels, so they're all within easy reach. I often visit the Corinthia Palace Hotel, first property we opened in 1968. It's my baby. I had acted as the contractor. It's quite an interesting story. My father, in 1959, bought that property, the villa. It's a very palatial villa with a grand entrance and a 3-story high atrium. And 4 months after he acquired the property, unfortunately, he passed away. So suddenly, a sense of responsibility fell on us. I seem to have taken the lead to see how to cope with the mortgage and all the needs for the property, because it had been shut for a few years. So you could imagine the condition it was in.
Yes.
We then opened the restaurant in 1962. That's 2 years after my father passed away. I went to the bank to borrow approximately $20,000, and the bank seemed unsure, so I had to get my uncle to act as guarantor. So we opened on 6th of December 1962, which has remained the birthday of the company, when we celebrate, every year. And after 2 years, in 1964, Malta got independence, and the government, together with the support of the British government, was looking for ways how to reorganize the economy. Where up to then we were totally dependent on the British Navy. So they wanted to promote tourism, commerce, industry, and get the island to be self-supporting, so to speak. I saw this aid to industry pamphlet that was being circulated, and I said, I don't think I want to spend the rest of my life making restaurant bills and buying salads or vegetables and potatoes and whatever. So I made an application to build a 40-room hotel. And the chairman of the tourist board, because they were responsible for the tourist section, said to me, that looks very good, but I'm afraid to tell you that you won't qualify. I said, well, why don't we qualify? He said, you have to have a hotel with a minimum number of keys of 150. I said, so no support for these smaller boys, so to speak? I said, I'm sorry, I don't make the law. But so I went back. Because we had a huge garden behind, I could accommodate for sure more than just 40 rooms. And I extended the building, to go into a Y shape and brought it up to 156 rooms. So I went back 4 weeks later and I said, I think I've satisfied the regulation. And he looked at it, sir, that looks fine. And he actually asked, what signature do you have on this drawing? It was my signature. I said, but you need to appoint an architect. So for sure, I'm going to appoint an architect. But at the time, I don't want to spend unnecessary money, only not to qualify. So we spoke about it for a while. He then turned to me and said, "Listen, if you had money for 40 rooms, you have money for 150 rooms." I said, "Oh, that's not my responsibility. I go to the bank." I said, "I have the land, together with my brothers. We have the villa, that will be the collateral, and the rest will have to come to the bank." So I don't think the banks will be that easy, to accommodate what you're asking for. I said, anyway, I'll try and see what happens. So I then went to the same bank. I had borrowed the 20,000, and they said, this is too big for us. The bank was called Tagliar Ferro, and they passed me on to their sister bank, Shiklunas, who again said to me, this is too big for us, and passed me to their mother bank. It was then called the National Bank of Malta.
Well, we know the end of the story because, you have founded an enormous group of hotels all around the world. So we know that ultimately you were successful. A lot of determination, I think, and courage shown there.
You have to take the first step,
Well, yes. How have you been able to keep in touch with those hotels in other parts of the world? I presume just Skype and Zoom, or because you haven't been able to travel there, have you?
No. We had a bit of a break in June last year. We could travel for about 6 weeks. But yes, in the main, it's been totally Skype. We speak to the managers. We can, see them face to face, so to speak. We've introduced a lot of controls, certain hotels we had to shut down.
Yeah.
We simply kept a 24-hour security and took the opportunity to do maintenance. We had to stop all capital expenditure. It's been tough.
Yes.
It's been tough for everyone.
And I know that you pride yourself very much in having a sort of family feel towards your staff. And of course, members of your own family work for the brand too. So you must have felt it not just as an employer, you must have felt a lot of pain as a family man too.
Many people asked me, what was your vision? What is your plan? I have always behaved and acted with passion. Everything I do, I try to do it to the best of my standards. And I feel for one to have a faster pace to achieve success, you need to bring online a similar style of thinking in those working closest to you. But I feel it has, the message has to go down right to every member of the company. I say to them that if I had to lose one fingernail, I can't say anymore I'm whole. I can still function, but not totally whole. And I'd like to look at every member of the family as part of the whole. And everybody has to feel that style of integrity, commitment, and passion.
It's a great philosophy. It's a wonderful thing to hear from the boss, because you know if the boss feels that, it filters on down. Tell me about Malta. There will probably be lots of people watching at the moment who don't know Malta. Tell me about it.
I think Malta is a unique place to visit. We have been endowed by many pluses. I think our location of a small island surrounded by big volume of seawater creates a tempering effect on the climate. I watch the climate on a daily basis on the television, and you will notice that the temperatures change from week to week would be hardly 1%. The change as we approach summer is gradual, and the change when we go back to winter is also very gradual. I think this is very comfortable and very healthy. We have no ethnic problems on the island. You know, there is stability. Your children can go out at night. You don't think twice about security. It's a very secure country. We have a tremendous attraction of the Neolithic temples, which date back 7,000 years. So, you know, in a couple of hours, you can travel 7,000 years and come to the present. Valletta is unique. It's the capital city. It's really unique. It was a city built by the Order of St. John, and people have referred to it as city built by gentlemen for gentlemen.
Oh.
It's a very appropriate reference.
I've got some video of just a few of the sites. I don't know if we could look at it now. Maybe you could talk me through what we're seeing there, but it does look wonderful.
This is the Upper Baraka overlooking the beautiful Grand Harbour, which you referred to at the beginning, where the Viking ships come in. Opposite is Fort St. Angelo, which played a big part during the siege. And when you see these bastions, which were all cut by hand, 350 years back, this is a part of Valletta. It's unique. I mean, you see the width of those bastions.
Yes. And they're wonderful to look at. And as I said earlier, to see that stone basking in the sunshine, it glows at you.
It glows. And it changes color from the morning to the evening, depending on the reflection of the sun. It's quite unique, actually.
And
that's the marina. We have about 6 marinas. This is very popular in Malta. And that's the entrance to Valletta. This is a typical house. I suppose it's more like in Medina. The old city, the old capital, was perched on a hill in the center of the island. Way back before, for protection, people, went to a high position. And Medina is palazzos, narrow roads, bending, so that if you were attacked, the enemy couldn't shoot straight because you had the protection of the curve in the street.
Yes.
Again, unique. This is the west coast of Comino, which is an island between Malta and Gozo. Those cliffs are phenomenal.
Aren't they? Really, it just looks beautiful. What is typically Maltese when it comes to food and drink? I'm told there's a local grape which makes very good wine.
We have very good grapes. We have the ingredients, good soil, a lot of sun. So I think we produce good quality. When I go look back, when we first opened the restaurant in '62, I didn't like the Maltese wine, but we've come a very long way. Our people know how to produce very, very good quality wine. food-wise, we've had the influence of all the people who took Malta over, starting with the Carthaginians, the Arabs, the Romans, and more recently there was the Order of St. John, and eventually the French, and more up to the English, who gave us independence in '64. So everybody has left a part of the heritage. And I think this has blended beautifully, like you find in many other countries. So we have the Mediterranean influence in terms of, Turkish style of food, Italian style of food, beautiful, like
And
they
of
get in
course,
your country.
because of its very position, I imagine there's been a lot of trading. So you would also have been exposed to all the spices from different countries. And seafood as well.
For sure. Well, one must remember that, going back to 100 years, not that far long, all communication and transport of food between, the north of Europe and the south of Europe, the African contact, had to be done by ships. And what better place than Malta, which is right in the center of the Mediterranean, to use it as a refuge or for repairing, ship repairing. And the Knights had chosen Malta specifically for that reason. When King Charles V offered them Malta after they were pushed out from Rhodes, they sent a commission which made a report on the island, which is still in the Biblioteca, the actual document, which says it's rather dry and it's got a population of about 10,000. However, it has beautiful, very protected natural harbors. And it was because of the natural harbors that the Knights decided to come here. Everybody needed to stop in Malta because, distances by what ships they had, no stabilizers, not like the Viking cruise now, where you can, travel in comfort. But then you had much smaller ships carrying salt and the produce from one country to the other.
Yes.
So, this exchange of commerce constantly took place through Malta.
Well, the food and drink does sound wonderful, and I found a little video clip which I think everybody will enjoy. It's a little video called Taste History, and in it, a lovely gentleman from the Malta Maritime Museum tells us about Marie Antoinette's favourite Maltese delicacy. This video was provided to us by Visit Malta. Just watch this. This is what Marie Antoinette liked.
Picture yourself on a hot summer's day in Malta and you need a cold glass of white wine. White wine coming from Burgundy was extremely popular in the 18th century at Malta. The ice was also used to prepare various sorbets and ice creams. We actually still have some of the recipes. In 1746, Grandmaster Pinto was overlooking his fleet. The fleet was sailing out from behind St. Angelo to show off the might of the Order of St. John. Grandmaster Pinto at that point decided to order a refreshing sorbet. We are told it was an iced fruit sorbet. The recipe that we are recreating today is a bitter orange sorbet. This sorbet is from a recipe of the 1740s. Apparently it was all the rage on the island of Malta. In the document, we find it as the recipe for a bergamot orange sorbet. In 1755, the British visitor to our island, Patrick Bryden, actually writes that orange trees from Malta were being sent yearly to Marie Antoinette at Versailles. These orange trees and bergamot trees were found all over the island. But the most popular were the ones at San Anton and at Verdara Palace in Busquet. Picture this. To prepare the recipe, you needed ice from Mount Etna in Sicily, sugar, possibly from the Caribbean or Sicily, oranges from Malta, cinnamon from the Pacific, and you are producing them on this little rock in the middle of the Mediterranean. All the ingredients from all over the world and being enjoyed here in Malta. And that is what Taste History is inviting you to do today. take a stroll through the busy streets of Valletta, enjoy a coffee in one of the piazzas, and order a sorbet, and appreciate the long history of sorbets and ice creams in Malta.
Well, I never knew how to make sorbet before, but I'd love to have a go. Never mind Marie Antoinette. I did mention earlier that it's a place that has long had British royal connections. So why do you think our royals have always loved Malta so much?
I think it's because Queen Elizabeth, with her late husband, stayed 2 years on the island when Prince Philip was, a naval officer on the Magpie. And people who recall them being here mention how much she integrated with the people. She went shopping, to the grocery, and I think it was, as you said earlier, a very particular time of their life. They had their 2 children here. So when I came to open the Corinthia Palace Hotel in '68, I saw an advert a write-up on the local paper, the Times of Malta, which stated that the Duke of Edinburgh will be visiting Malta in June '68. I read this, it was September '67. So I phoned up the ADC to the Governor General, Maurice Dorman, and I asked the ADC, I said, listen, is it true that the Duke is coming? I said, because we plan to open the hotel also in June. Do you think he would agree to officiate in the opening? And he kind of, brushed me off. He said, of course, we don't do that kind of thing. I said, but please speak to the Governor General. Now, the Corinthia Palace, the building you showed on the video earlier on, is only 300 meters from the Palace of the Governor General. And so we had many opportunities to help out with functions and whatever that, were being held at the palace. So he said, okay, if you insist, I'll do that. And Sir Maurice phoned me back and said, Alfred, I will write to Buckingham Palace. So he did. And he got an acknowledgement, receipt of letter, but not saying yes or no. And I would phone up every 2 months or 3 months to the ADC, Claude Gaffero was his name. I said, Claude, any news? And he would say, no news. And then also becoming a bit sarcastic in his tone, the royal family don't get involved in these things. Come 4 weeks before the day I had in mind to open, it was the 10th of June, I phoned him for the last time, and he said, Alfred, as a friend, I'm telling you, forget it. I said, okay, I'm going to issue the invitations. So I did issue the invitations for the 10th, and I started receiving replies, yes, no, I can't make it, and so on. 5 days later, Claude phones me with an exciting, excitable voice. He said, Alfred, I've got good news. I said, what? He said, the Duke has agreed to officiate. I said, and what day? He told me the 11th. So the second night, I said, that's good. I will send a slip of paper saying, in the light that His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh, has agreed to officiate, we've shifted the day from the 10th to the 11th. Everybody came. I promise you, everybody came. And I got a phone call from an agent who I didn't know. He said, we're doing a film in Malta. And there's a gentleman by the name of Roger Moore.
Yes.
Could you give him an invitation? I said, who is Roger Moore? I never had seen the guy. This is going back to 1968, He hadn't done that's him. And I said, one less. So I sent him the invitation. And look at the beautiful photo, this tall, good-looking man shaking hands.
Why do you think Prince Philip made the exception? Do you think it's because he just loved Malta so much? He thought,
Maybe.
Yes, good excuse to go to Malta.
That's after we cut the ribbon. And then I took him round, we went down to the basement, we had everybody lined up, all the maintenance staff, the kitchen staff, and he shook hands with quite a few of them and would stop and make some comments. We then went up to one of the floors, to the third floor. So all the chambermaids were lined out. And again, he would stop, and I took him into a bedroom, onto the balcony, overlooking where he was staying at the palace. He brought out a very small camera, which looked like made of gold, not more than 3 inches, and just kept clicking like this. I said, that's quite an innovation. I've never seen anything like that. Well, I said, I'm taking a photo as a memory of where I've been staying. Well, it was a very lovely day, and it was a great honor to have him be with us. We subsequently, as you know, opened a hotel in the United Kingdom, in London. And I had contacted Prince Charles, who I had met before. And I said to him, we're opening this hotel in London. And I gave him photos of the occasion when his father had opened a hotel in Malta. And I said, it would be very nice if you could, come and visit us to also do a kind of similar exercise. And he did come, and he went round, and asked me questions about when his father came to Malta. I think it was very touching, actually.
Absolutely, and it's lovely for you as well. We've got a little video here which sort of tells your whole story. I thought everybody would like to see it because it does tell the story that you've actually mentioned earlier about how your father originally bought the house and then basically left you with an enormous mortgage, having to get a bank loan and all the rest of it, and having to build it. And then a bit later on, we'll see some of the amazing hotels that you now own. But you had to do an awful lot of that building work, that construction work yourself, didn't you?
Let me tell you, when I was 17, I said to my father, I want to build my house. And he said, you don't even have a girlfriend. What do you want a house for? I said, but I'd like to do that because later on I may be too busy to, do this. I somehow had this urge to get along in life. And I built this house physically, I would help there on a daily basis. So when we came to construct the hotel, we started that's my mother. Oh. We started in 65, building the hotel. I said, why don't I do the same as I did with my house? So I went to the same mason. He would have a gang of 3 people. And I said, his name was Felice. I said, Felice, how many people do we need to build this size of hotel? He said, I need 5 gangs. I said, you look after the masonry. I will look after all the shuttering and the concrete. So I was the foreman, the contractor, and the builder.
You were the gang.
Gang. We bought a second-hand mixer.
Your dream became reality.
Became reality.
Yeah. And such a beautiful, luxurious reality as well. I mean, we'll see that a bit later as well, what it would be like to actually stay there. But and there we have, yes, the Prince Philip actually coming.
That's right.
Yeah, which must have been, and obviously it's on the plaque as well. It must have been a wonderful moment for you.
His charming smile, my God.
I know.
Those are my brothers, Joe and George. George has passed away, but anyway. And behind me, they're all the government officials.
And then we start to see some of your other hotels elsewhere. And my goodness, how many do you now own?
24. We have 24 hotels.
Wow.
But I say to my CEO, Simon Nowthe, who's my right-hand man, I say, I want in 7 to 10 years' time to look back and say today and say how small we were.
Yes.
All we were.
But how large some of your hotels are. I can't look at the size.
That's St. Petersburg. This is Tripoli, and it is beautiful. That's in the northwest part of Malta. That's in Sudan.
Gosh.
Lisbon. This is beautiful, though the elevation doesn't look. And that's our crown jewel in London. This is under construction in Brussels, in Doha.
In Dubai.
That's Dubai. And that's in Bucharest. In Moscow, that's the Rome.
I think that's the last one we see there. And as you were saying,
I'm happy to announce we've just signed New York.
New York, of course. Oh, wonderful. Oh, the story never ends. I mean,
only this morning we've concluded, and we don't own it, we will be managing it.
You've clearly been so successful and still growing. What have been your proudest moments, and what would you do differently, if anything? I mean, you must have made some mistakes along the way.
Well, the proudest moment, I think, has been achieving the closeness with my management team. Each time we completed a hotel, notwithstanding the odds and the problems that anybody else would obviously face. In our case, we were always the project managers, the developers, the project managers, and ultimately the operators. So it all came under one umbrella. It was always a big satisfaction the moment we opened the doors to the customers. And I would say to the GM, I say, now it's on your shoulders. We've given you the hardware. It is up to you to produce the software, and with a soul. I want everybody to feel he's a part of a family, that we stand, to support each other. Share your knowledge with the persons below you. Teach them how they, in turn, share their knowledge with those reporting to them. I always like to give the example of two pieces of metal, or a piece of metal which is just a weight, composed of trillions of atoms.
Yeah.
And each atom has an energy going around it. But these atoms are all in different positioning, and the energy is, so to speak, working against each other. If you get another magnet, so if you have a top GM, and this magnet, you run it over this piece of metal, say 100 times, it will gradually align all the atoms into one direction. So all the energies, instead of working against each other, they come in parallel.
Oh, nice.
And it reaches a strength which goes beyond its physical size. And a piece of metal 5 inches away is attracted. So I say to my colleagues, imagine what we could create if we could align our thinking, our sentiments, our generosity and our passion for one another, in the same manner that you could do on a bit of metal. Just imagine the energy that this would create. I also believe it could be an energy that is felt, even though it's not visible. I will open the fridge and I feel the cold. I don't see the cold, I feel it. I feel the heat when I open the oven, but I don't see it. I will laugh if I walk into a room where everybody's laughing, even though I don't know what they're saying. Or cry if I go into, where there's a morgue, somebody passed away. So there are a lot of energies in life where we cannot see them. We have the energy to understand what somebody is thinking without really having, communicated enough. So I believe that for the well-being of the individual, forget the company for a while, the well-being of the individual, if he can bring in certain principles of correctness, of commitment, of passion, it will first and foremost help him, make him a better person. It will have a reflection on his family and on the people around. Likewise, on the place of work where we spend so much time. So if we, apart from building nice properties, which is the physical part, help our colleagues to become better people in the process of producing whatever work they are doing. This is an added bonus. And the ultimate beneficiary is the individual himself. And I would like our guests to come into the property and say, it's lovely, it's fine, but there was a very good feeling.
Yes.
This is the feeling.
Yes.
This is the feeling.
I understand that, absolutely. Some buildings can be very splendid, but there is no feeling. And you're quite right to actually go and experience something and come away saying, it felt lovely, it felt warm, it felt family. That's the best thing of all, isn't it?
We will keep on trying.
Well, I wanted to show everybody what it would be like. For instance, if you could stay at the Royal Penthouse in the Corinthian, I think in London, and if we have a look at this, because I mean, you were telling me how you had to learn how to build, how to talk to bank managers for loans, how to manage money, how to manage staff, but you've had to learn a lot, I presume, about interior design and how to make something look perfect.
We will over time develop an understanding. And I like balance of proportions. I think I'm more focused on that. We've employed very, very good interior designers. We've had a lot of disagreements, and please do this again and again.
Yeah.
The bedrooms for this property, we did them 6 times, sample rooms, before we agreed.
Wow.
6 times. That's the stairwell in the Royal Suite. This is 1,000 square meters.
I mean, it's bigger than most people's houses and absolutely gorgeous. But it's the detail, isn't it? Absolutely beautiful.
And the view from the veranda, unique. That's the bathroom with the fireplace.
Yes, you do love the fireplaces here as well. Well, it is London, I suppose. You need to feel cosy. But that's just to give everybody a glimpse of what it would be like to be the ultimate VIP in that gorgeous suite in the Corinthia in London. So I am told that back in 2001, you were appointed a member of the Maltese National Order of Merit, and then honoured again in 2014 to the highest order of the land, which is Officer of the National Order of Merit. That must have been, too, a very, very proud moment for you.
It was a good, nice honour. That's the view from the veranda.
Not bad, eh? Lovely view. So we've got lots of questions for you, but a lot of people are asking, where do you go on holiday? And what do you like to do when you're on holiday?
Primarily, I'm more interested in emotions, feeling the mood where I feel happy and comfortable. And that could be, achieved anywhere. When I was young, I was interested, to not only to develop, but also to enjoy the fruits of what one is developing. However, with age, I tend to become a far more simple man. I do enjoy immensely, going to our lovely hotels, for sure. But then I feel I'm always under sort of semi-duty. My eyes are constantly going around and looking at this and looking at that. So you're never that totally relaxed. So I like to go to our sister island, to Gozo, and spend a couple of days over a weekend, or just pick up the car and go to Sicily, we have a fast ferry, an hour and a half, and share what we don't have in Malta, the mountains,
Yes.
And the rivers. But we have beautiful beaches, beautiful sea. So, yeah, I like simple things, actually.
Yes,
I like going to a bar and listening to the people there, and hopefully enjoying a simple discussion,
Okay, we've got another question. If you'd known how hard it was to build your first hotel, would you have done it?
Yes, I don't think that worried me in the least. I am committed to face and do what it takes to finish my job, whether it's a simple, need or whatever. I wish I could find a way to plant this commitment in all the people I come across. Do it because you are proud of what you are doing. It's not necessarily for the words of well done, or that's not important. What is important is that you have made some contribution. And whether other people recognize it or not, it's not really that important.
No, it's
what is important that you know it, that you've done your best. If you are worth 10 and you give 10, then you're doing your utmost. But if you're worth 15 and you give only 12, even though 12 is more than 10, you are not giving your utmost. And I'd rather, rub shoulders with the guy who gives his utmost.
Yes.
Who is honest and committed. I think that's an energy in itself.
One more question. Do you get many visitors from the United States?
In London, it's our biggest percentage of people. I think 25% come from the United States. In Malta, as we were explaining earlier, we don't have the direct connections. I'm looking forward to when the Viking cruises will, come with the American, because they represent 80%, you mentioned.
Yes,
and this will give them this opportunity to hopefully get, our act in Malta to somehow market our island in the United States. We need to do that.
People need to know. One more question. Do you live in the hotel or do you have a private house somewhere?
No, I live in my house. Again, my own, something I built myself. Not the first one. I moved out from that a long time ago. But I do like to go and spend weekends. I tend to do it more now that we are in this lockdown. It's not possible to go and dine in the hotels. Our restaurants are closed. But you can sleep over and then you can have room service. So yes, I enjoy doing that, but I live in my house.
When you can travel properly throughout the world, where will be the first place you go, do you think?
I will want to go to Rome to see our new property there. It's under construction at the moment. I'd like to go to New York to have a look at this property because I haven't seen it. I remember its location because way back, many, many years ago, I had stayed at the Pier Hotel overlooking Central Park. This is just behind it. So I know the location, but I need to go and just get a feel.
Yeah,
check it out. So all these new hotels online, I really want to go. That's where I feel I really must get going, It's so unusual that I can talk about it and see it on a picture and yet not even meet the people who are actually negotiating with us.
Exactly. It won't be long, will it? One feels more optimistic now than we have felt in a very, very long time. What will you be doing today now that I say goodbye? What are you off to do?
I have meetings lined up. I am looking to organize something with our bakery. We have our own bakery on the island, which serves our hotels, but also the public. And I believe we can do provide some additional business if what we are discussing, should succeed. So that's the next meeting. Then I have 3 or 4 other meetings.
Oh, but meetings all day.
This goes on,
I'm so glad you've made some time to be able to tell us about Malta and your own beautiful hotels. But I've never been to Malta. I'm very ashamed to say I've never been there, but you certainly whetted my appetite. And it'll be on my bucket list from now. And I think for a lot of other people as well, it looks like the most beautiful, beautiful place. Thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about it and giving us some time in your busy schedule. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for asking me to be on this interview. And I will take you around the island when you decide to visit. So, Anne, please write to me, okay?
Definitely. Thank you. It's a date. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and telling us about Malta. Well, there you are. I think we've all learned something today, haven't we? But if you didn't, like me, you've never been to Malta or you didn't even know anything very much about it, I'm sure you'll want to go now, as indeed do I. So thank you very much for that. And next week, my special guest is going to be a man who spent his life looking into the very depths of the universe and looking back millions of years into history, right back to the echoes of the Big Bang. He's in charge of one of the biggest and most important telescopes in the world. That's Jodrell Bank in Britain. So next week, we're going to be meeting him. He's Tim O'Brien, Professor Tim O'Brien. And he'll also be telling us how we can best spot not just Viking Venus, but the planet Venus, as the next few weeks are apparently a very, very good time to spot Venus in the night sky and in the morning sky. In the meantime, if your appetite is whetted for a cruise around Malta, let me just show you those two itineraries again that Viking is going to be cruising. They are going to be called Malta and the Adriatic Jewels and Malta and Greek Isles Discovery. In the meantime, until next week, have a fabulous week. Goodbye.